Morning, everyone. Happy Sunday. I hope you enjoy this fantastic day because we here in California just in the middle of the weekend, so that's fun to have this cool weather in this fall. So today I have a wonderful guest, Greg. So I see you, Greg, here. Just request the join into the live stream and we'll be together. And I can't wait to bring up your story. I hope you'll be honest with us, with your goals, with everything that you want to achieve in media. And this will help other people to dream big. Hi, Greg. How are you doing?
Hi, Yara. I'm doing great. How are you?
I- I'm great, and I can't wait to share your dreams, your goals, your expectations in media. So first of all, tell people who you are and what do you want to achieve in media. Who you picture yourself, let's say. Who you picture yourself like in 1 year.
Well, I'm from the Atlanta area. I've been here for about a good 30 years. My family and I, we've lived here for a long time.
Wow.
Uh, I am attracted to this course because I've always had a talent for art and design and would like to expand that into other areas. So I think that at the end of this, I would love to do like some broadcasting, or I would love to do a host where I could host a show like traveling, or maybe do podcasting, things like that. So that's the area that I'd like to get into.
Cool. So here we go. That's the first step. You're broadcasting now
Yeah.
with me. That's cool. So, do you have any fears? Because sometimes people they face a lot of fears and challenges in terms of public speaking or I don't know, kind of stuff like that. So, being like on public, being judged by some things. Do you what advice can you give to people who still experience that?
I would say that public speaking is something that personally I would say you shouldn't really try and wing it. It's better
Mm-hmm.
to feel more prepared, so that way, even if you make a mistake, you at least know what kind of direction you're going into. Being prepared is good. Also, practice is definitely good. There's nothing like practice. I took a public speaking course back in college, and that's what sort of ignited my passion to want to learn more about it. Being in public, talking to people, and especially the last thing is, when you are passionate about a subject that you like, that you feel strongly about, it makes it that much easier to be able to talk in public. Sometimes the words just come out when
Yeah.
you're passionate about something. It's no different like if you're talking about a favorite movie, sports event, whatever it is that you like, that you're passionate about. That's what makes it easier.
But
So
you know
those.
the feeling of responsibility, like all eyes on you, a lot of people watching you. Does it like scare you?
Uh, Again, well, yeah. I mean, there's always that initial reservation that you might have to be aware of that, what you're really taking
Yeah.
on. But I would say just to sort of push that away, not focus on that, and just focus on being in the moment and getting through it and making the experience as fun and enjoyable as possible. That's what really helps me.
That will help everyone actually if they follow your advice. I hope they will. So,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So why traveling is your like passion and go-to point?
I love travel. I've always wanted to travel. Aside from being in the Atlanta area, when I was younger, my family was in the military, so we traveled a lot. Haven't had a chance to really do that in some years, but I want to get back into doing that. And so for me, uh, taking this course will provide me with an avenue to sort of get back into that. There's just so much in the world to see, and I want to take a vocation that allows me to do that and travel at the same time. So
Absolutely. But what countries will you go? Because as for me, I'm also a huge traveler because I usually travel with my family, mostly around the US because it's like a lot of fantastic spots to visit. For example, national parks, a lot of people, a lot of like adults, when I tell them, "Oh, when I visited the park," and they say, "Oh, cool, lucky you are. I've last like been there when I was a kid." So a lot of places to see here. What will be your list, like a bucket list to go? Where to go?
Oh man, where to start? Definitely, I would love to. I've expressed a desire to always go back to different countries in Africa, mainly Ghana, to start.
Wow.
Uh, After that, I would probably love to go to Britain. I'd love to hit Spain, Portugal, New Zealand, Italy. Belgium, and go back to Germany, where my family and I used to live. I'd love to see how it's changed. So those
Wow.
I'd love to go to.
And which city in Germany?
Frankfurt, that's where we were stationed.
Wow,
So I'd love to go back.
I've been there this September, so it was like,
Yeah,
yeah, because
great.
I've been to Berlin, but it was like back like before COVID, 2019, and this was like around that same time. It was like very, gray and dim and such atmosphere, not like in California where we have sun 365. So yeah, but I love it. So totally love it. Love that people, they are super goal oriented. So yeah, and I love your bucket list. I've been myself, I've been to Italy, I've been to France, I've never been to Spain, but I should probably go as well.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's cool. What about the US? Which cities or states you already visited or you plan to?
Okay. Well, living in the South, I've been to a lot of the neighboring states like Florida, uh, North Carolina, Virginia, Alabama, Oklahoma. So I've been to some of those states.
Wow.
Love to go up north and hit more of the north side, like New Delaware, Maryland, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, New York. Then I like to go to the west side and hit Cali, Arizona, Nevada, New Mexico, Texas. So
Yeah.
I like to hit a lot of spots. Yeah.
So my longest trip was 2 weeks, 2 weeks long, and we traveled by car from California to Texas, but passing by a lot of states. That was amazing. When people understand the distances, they are like, "Wow,
Yeah.
I can't believe you." But that was that, yeah. So every day we stayed a new, like, explored a new state, explored a new city, explored a new life. And when you travel, even for 1 or 2 days, you stay in the area, you understand what it looks like. You compare, you want to like, and if I would have been a host of a travel blog, that was exactly what I would do. And you said about the podcast. What is the difference between, for you, between the travel blog and the podcast, and what your podcast should be about?
I think when you're traveling, it expands your range. You get to really have more of an expanded view of what you're talking about because you're appealing to a wider range of people. Usually with podcasts, the subject is very specific. They're usually talking to specific demographics that the subject might pertain to. It can expand, but they usually are focused on specific areas, right? So I would like to do podcasting because I feel like I have something to say when it comes to dating and relationships and other areas like spirituality.
Wow.
But I would also like to travel just because that's really one of my passions. And I would just really love to get out there, meet new people, learn new things.
Date new
Why?
people.
Yeah, so traveling would come first, podcasting would come second. If I could do both,
I
that would be ideal.
bet you can.
Yeah.
That's absolutely doable. But tell me more about this. You know why I'm asking? Because like 1 month ago, one of our students also, he's by the way from Canada, but he joined the course because he wanted to have this like romantic podcast about relationships. And now you say about this almost same thing. And I was like, wow, why? What attracts you? Like to give advice or to look for advice? So what do you want from that? What do you want to bring out to the world?
I think that when it comes to relationships, everybody has different views based upon their different experiences. Some do converge, but for the most part, there's a lot of misinformation based on people who give their testimonies as the exception in
Yeah,
specific situations as opposed to the rule that affects the majority of people, right? So, advice is, in my opinion, valuable if the majority can relate to it. Yes, there are outliers, but if everybody can't apply it, then it doesn't really help them, right? So when it comes to relationships or dating or philosophy or whatever it is, I think the advice is inherently more valuable when it brings everybody together on the same page. Because the goal is to expand your understanding so everybody isn't going in these different directions, especially if they're in the wrong direction, right?
yeah,
So if you have one experience that takes you this way and you have another experience that takes you that way, some
yeah,
I mean everybody can't be right about the same thing. So the
yeah.
goal is to, in my opinion, the goal is to whittle away those different viewpoints through trial and error, through what works and what doesn't, so everybody can arrive at the same page. Uh,
Interesting.
many people who are out here with channels and they get views and they get likes and everything else, but the goal really is to, just play for the camera,
Yeah.
as opposed to actually dispensing valuable information that you can apply in your life. So that would be my goal if
Wow.
I were to, when I have a channel or a podcast. I'd like to
You will.
contribute to the community.
You will.
Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah,
I'm like, inspired by this idea. You know why? Because the same comes to the feedback. When we help businesses grow, we usually, when we start, analyzing what have been done, right? So, and we see like a lot of people have like negative feedback and they are just afraid of negative feedback. And this is why, because people only want to speak up when they are like unsatisfied. When they are satisfied, they are just, they can tell one on one, like, oh, that was cool, like whatever it was cool, it's nice, but they will not go and shout out about how good that was. This is why when you're saying like exceptions, people usually they are speaking when they are broken, not that when they are happy, because when
right.
they are happy and everything is okay, they don't need to speak out. But when they like look for different like points of view, they are most of the time they are broken. This is why it brings them up to this topic, to this subject, and to the area. And this is interesting, by the way, to analyze from different perspectives. I love it. You know what, I also took a course for investors in Stanford University here in California, and that was interesting because a lot of like startups ideas were pitching their startups, like I want to do the startup about this, about that. And one girl, she was saying about a startup of dating app, and a lot of people in the audience, they say like, hey, we have a lot of dating apps, why do we need one more
Right.
else? And she said, you know what, because this app will be like powered by like real people, real expert psychologists who will help you to deal with unsuccessful dates. For example, you go for a date and you didn't like this partner or this person, you find it like somehow not your choice, it's like the minimum, right? And the maximum, if you find this person being like dangerous for you, or I don't know, whatever it is, aggressive, not polite, you give a feedback to the app and you consult with a professional like psychologist who will help you to figure out what was it, the problem on your side or on that person's side.
Right.
So
That's
that's
interesting.
kind of interesting, but it's just it's such so complicated idea, like how you will apply. So you would just go for a date and another date and you say like yes or no, that's it. So in the modern world, what do you think, what's the best advice for the person who looks for finding the relationships, the love of your life, where to search for, in the app or totally not in the app? Do you believe in
Uh,
dating apps actually?
the number one thing I would say that is important when it comes to dating and relationships is having realistic expectations. There are a lot of factors involved with dating and relationships that can make it better or worse for people when they're trying to date. I don't really subscribe to using a whole bunch of dating apps because it allows people to hide behind their true self and they get to edit themselves at will.
Yeah.
And it's away from that authentic experience. At the same time, there are a lot of people who don't have a lot of organic experience or who simply aren't good at it. They've been out of practice for a while. But there is no substitute for just getting out there and just putting your best self out there and trying to make a connection with people.
Practice.
To realistic expectations, you have to be clear about what you want. Now, that does come along with a certain degree of experience because you have to go through stuff in order to really figure out what you like and what you don't like. But you have to be clear about what you're looking for, whether you're just dating or you're looking to settle down, get married, have a family. You have to, and this goes to my main point of practicing good dating habits, right? You can't have multiple people that you're dealing with. You can't be around, you can't have a whole slew of toxic family and friends who give you bad information, misinformation.
Yeah.
Because when you bring that into a relationship, it makes it that much harder for you and your partner to clean up. And it makes it that much harder for you and your partner to present your authentic selves with somebody because the goal is to spend the rest of your life with somebody. And you can't do that if you're both still playing around. So, the number one thing I would say when it comes to dating relationships is having realistic expectations. Guys want the pretty girl who might have bad habits up here. Girls want the good looking guy on the outside right? But he doesn't have the inner qualities that she's looking for. So you have to have realistic expectations. You have to understand that you cannot have it all. Okay, which
Okay.
some people are you. Some people will try and do that despite the advice. You can't. You can have everything at different points in your life, but you're not going to have it all at once, because to have it all at once essentially kind of makes you your own God. And God doesn't want that. For those who believe in God, he doesn't want that. And that's why he breaks it into different points. That's why you have to work to get different things in your life. So when it comes to dating, you try to find the most that you can in a partner, and then you compromise on the rest. That's being realistic. So that's
And
what I would.
this being realistic means you should be like honest with yourself or with the other person. So it means like if I'm a good looking person pretending I don't have any bad habits, or I am just ideal person, right? So I'm not honest with that person first, right? So maybe I am playing my game. But being realistic and about expectations, it means with your honest to say to yourself, yes, now I want to build a family and I'm ready to work for it. Or to say to that person, hey, I want to build a family and I am looking to build a family. If you don't want to do that now, so don't waste our time.
I would say being realistic means practicing introspection.
Hmm.
Introspection being doing the work within yourself, analyzing your strengths and your weaknesses, your good and bad points, your overall success with dating, the types of people that you tend to go for versus the types that you say you want or you tend to attract. You have to be honest in all those areas. If you've got trauma from childhood, if you don't get along with certain family members, if you're not good at active listening, if you have things that you have to work on, you have to be honest with yourself, work on those things before pursuing quality partners. Because if you don't address it, a person who values themselves, they'll bring it out for you, they'll address it to you, and then
Hmm.
you'll have to work on it then, or risk losing that partner, because it's about working and building together. You can't do that if you're not willing to work on yourself, but you're expecting the other person to
But
work
how
on
would
themselves.
you know about this if you didn't hear that feedback, right? So if you just think you're perfect and then someone says, oh, actually you need to work on this area, and you think he is like crazy, not me. So how to start listening to people? What's your advice on it?
I think that I think that people are only receptive to introspection when they're ready, which unfortunately happens a little later in life. When you're younger, uh, people have what I call the immortal attitude. They're invincible. Nothing can faze them. They're right. The world is wrong. So usually people have to go through some things before they become more receptive, before they humble themselves. And it's usually at that point in their lives that they look at their own track record and say, hey, you know what? I haven't been successful in this area. This has been pointed out to me before. So it's very rare that people will be wise in younger stages in their life. That usually happens when they're older.
This
And so
this age is what, like 40 years old, 30 years old?
I would say for ladies, the maturity tends to start between their early to mid 30s. That's when they start reflecting, because now they're looking at the dating field, they're looking at how dating is out there. They're cross-referencing their own experiences with that of their friends and their girlfriends and family members. And with guys, I would say guys don't come into their own until they're in their 40s. That's when they hit their financial prime, really,
So
and that's
if you're a girl and you're 30, you need to look at the guy who's 40 to make this match.
I would say girls have the biological clock that they go by, so their priorities are different from men. uh it really comes down to priorities. If a girl wants to live her life, as they say, and adopt a more independent mindset, she's free to do that. She's certainly free to do that. But at the same time, she sacrifices that prime window
Yeah.
to have a family. And with guys, it's the same way, because guys operate from a more financial perspective. Most guys won't take bigger steps with a lady until and unless they feel ready and capable to provide and protect for her. What I always say is that people will come to a crossroads in their life where they choose between a career and a family. And whichever they choose first, the other tends to take a back seat. And you have to be okay with that. That's where the realistic expectations comes in. If you choose family first, right? You put all of your resources into the well-being and development of your spouse and your children, then you are going to struggle with building a career a little later on. If you choose a career first, you lose the prime years to build a family. That's balance. That's sacrifice. So,
How about ideal world where we can just, from 9 to 5, we are in the career opportunities, and from 5 p.m. and to the midnight, we are chasing the family goals.
well, an ideal setting is not impossible, but it takes some work. I'll say that. It definitely takes some work. And you have to be willing to put in that work if that's what you want. It can happen, but it will happen later in life after you've accumulated some real,
But
absolutely real.
let's be realistic,
Okay,
right?
yeah, be realistic about it. You got to be realistic. The only time that people tend to have it all, in my experience, is if they come from money, right? They're born into it, or if they maybe win the lottery and they happen to invest as opposed to just splurging it like most people do, or if they have some sort of stroke of luck in their life that allows them to capitalize on the benefits that society provides at an early age. But aside from that, as most of us tend to do, we get there one step at a time, like everybody else. So you have to be realistic in your expectations and your goals. It can be done, but it takes work.
So this is why we need this realistic podcast about dating and relationship to be out there for people to understand that it's okay if you're like 35 and you're just starting the family. And this is the answer why you did so. This is why I extremely appreciate you and this valuable insight. And I will say that you shared today the phenomenal wisdom, I'll call it this way, because a lot of, like, when you listen to, first of all, when men want to talk about like relationship, we usually like expect something like we're like tense. What's gonna happen? We're intrigued. We're sometimes like suspicious about it. But when you put it in words, it really lives a fantastic. This sense lives a fantastic life. So I like it totally. So my last question would be, how again, what would you promise and how will you get to the point of creating your own channel in the next year, within the next year, from today like until the next Thanksgiving Day?
Okay, so my personal promise is to not only complete the course, but to really take the techniques and apply them towards my future prospects. And as far as putting together a podcast, actually, this is something that I've been sitting on for a while. I've been thinking about it for a while. I don't think that every person with a voice deserves to have a platform, because there are people who put out quality information, and there are others who just contribute to the negative, endless plethora of misinformation and toxicity that's out there. So my podcast is going to have purpose, which is going to be based on experience, personal perspective, also an open-minded and expansive mindset, because there's always room for improvement. And so
Yes.
that's the kind of impact that I would like to contribute to the broadcasting and podcasting community.
Wow, sounds like a
Yeah.
promise, a real promise, and the
Yes.
promises are made to be
Be
implemented
kept.
in life.
The real
Yeah.
promises are made to be kept, Yara. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was a real one. So we all witnessed that. And I'm happy that you answered for this question about the platform and the voices positively in terms of your goals, because I was about to say like, but the audience will choose, because if the audience votes for you with their likes, with their reactions, with their views, it means you're doing right. If the audience doesn't like this content, they just skip it. And no one, in terms of like television, usually television rules give us an idea that we launch the project, like we take off, and then we see how much it goes to the audience, right? So how much people should pay their attention to it. And usually audience never lies. So we hope that this project will meet your expectations and even like make it even more. So for you, the benefit, the valuable insights, and you will see how important was it to take these first steps. This is why I am extremely happy to have this first step. That was your first podcast. I think it was. So that's good. Thank you, Greg, for joining today, and I wish you a very fruitful work ahead, and I'll help you in that. And now we all will watch your promise. So follow Greg for more. And of course, stay tuned in our new podcast about relationships. And not only that.
Thank you for having me, Yara. I'll talk to you again
Yeah.
soon. Take
Yeah. See you. Take care.
care.
Bye bye.